Hello, everybody, and welcome. I don't usually do a hello and welcome. Maybe Will is rubbing.
You're just on there
Maybe
too
I'm.
much.
It's yeah. Who knows? But anyway, I'm Samson Folk. I'm here with Trevon, the Trey, the namesake in pull up Trey. We're in Trey. Pulls up. I wonder if my neighbors are like, "Damn, he's yelling again." I wonder what's going on in there. Trevon, how you doing? We're gonna talk about basketball, but first, apparently you've got beef.
Me and you have beef. For as everyone knows, for the past 3 months now, I've been injured. Can't really go out much, and as you guys see in this lovely man's timeline, he's always active. He's going out. He's rock climbing. He's going for runs. I've
You
noticed,
want to run with me? I know how you feel about running.
and in times like when you're at your lowest, you really find out like who's gonna be there to uplift you. There's been multiple posts over the last week. None I haven't been involved in, not one of them. Our whole friend group hangs up. I'm not even aware. Picture. No, not even a little crop of me.
Wow.
I see you. I literally see you on Monday. You take a picture of everything you did on that Monday besides seeing me. It's just insane. I thought, me and you, and just for anyone that doesn't know, we rank our friends in sort of tiers. And like me and you, we're tier one friends. I'm
We
slowly
are.
watching myself dissipate and get lower and lower on your
Wow.
list. And like Monday was just a confirmation. It's pretty sad.
Is it like, Back to the Future where they keep disappearing in the picture? Like you're seeing yourself slip away? You're like,
It's
oh,
a fact. Like, was my like athletic prowess like the basis of this?
hmm. Just your ability to do things
I
is the
guess.
most. We'll pick it up again, man. Some of that
Yeah,
needs to come from you, though.
fair enough.
Okay. So that's Trey's. Wait. Give your health report before we get to the Raptors.
Yes. Finally got cleared to start rock climbing, so you're gonna see me in some of this man's pictures now. Did a little running, so like we're like a month out from basketball, so it should be fun.
We gotta have some wings and NFL Sunday and
Yes,
some rock climbing. That's the move. I'll take
let's
all
do
the
it.
pictures you want. We'll be a photographer up in there. So, the Raptors as well are they've been so injured, man, so injured. But today at practice, Scottie rocks up happy as a clam. He's still got that red in his eye. It looks crazy, but he says that doesn't matter. Like he's feeling great. It hurt for the first few days, but now he feels like he can pretty much do anything on the court. He got to keep up with a lot of his conditioning. He got to keep up with a lot of that kind of stuff because it was the head injury. He got to do all the body stuff. So other guys who are like Jacoby and like Bruce Brown who are in way better spots now, but they have to do reconditioning. They have to get back in the game shape. Scotty, per Darko, is questionable now. Like he very well could play tomorrow. He was a full participant in practice today. He did a full contact, everything.
Well,
So they'll see how his body responds. By the time you're listening to this, it's today. They play the Wolves, and we're looking at maybe a Scottie Barnes appearance. Whether or not he plays against the Wolves, we got to talk about Scottie being back. So we'll table that for about 25 seconds, as I say. Jacoby is technically questionable but is ramping up. Darko didn't speak about him as confidently as he did about Scotty. Bruce Brown, who I don't think we were supposed to hear anything until December, really. He was talked about like, yeah, he's participating, he's doing stuff. He needs reconditioning. Very well. Kelly Olynyk, non-contact. Still like going through his own stuff. And Emmanuel quickly did not participate in any team stuff. He's just doing solo work by himself. So all that the team maybe a bill of health is a little bit cleaner. So we're so close, man. We're
finally.
so close.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, they still have stuff they have to determine with IQ. So Scottie Barnes may be back. I'll get into some of the quotes, what some of the guys thought, Scottie himself. But Trey, this is your guy, Jamaican, Scottie Barnes in Toronto. How do you feel?
While like watching like some of the guys play has been great. Like Gradey's popped off. RJ, you've got to see him in like a player archetype that we haven't seen before. We need the mass man back. At a certain point, you need minutes to be occupied by NBA players and all-star NBA players. Um, I think one of the key things, like with the Raptors, like with Scottie just like being out in general, is like the middle of the floor is just extremely harder to get into and maintain. Also, like Scottie can do that both as like a passer, a screener, and also just like ram his way through those things. The Raptors are like one of the best teams is getting in the paint otherwise, but the amount of work and actions they have to do. One of the big reasons why Jakob Poeltl gets so much of his touches and like resurgence as modern day Shaq. Um, it's just that they have so few options. Teams are loading up on RJ. He's getting those touches, and if those touches turn into maybe a Jakob feeding to Scott in the dunker spot, or vice versa, or just Scotty ramming his way through the defense, it opens up more 3-point opportunities, makes things easier for everyone. And some of the guys who are overextended, like a RJ, whose efficiency has gotten better the last few games, so kudos to him. But like overall, has been kind of stretched out. It makes everyone fit into their proper role and makes things extremely easier, and hopefully leads to more wins, especially on the road.
That was 0-7 on the road, 3-4 at home. Familiar bed discourse. Familiar bed. Uh, so the interesting thing is what you brought up is like putting RJ like into more quote unquote his role. Uh, I have a really interesting question around that, but I'll start with I asked Darko about that. Like, what have you seen? While Scottie's been out, of course, you asked those guys those questions, but also, what are you looking forward to with RJ taking that step with Jakob, like showing more of his game for once Scottie returns? And the first thing Darko said was that he was excited to see how RJ adds to their offense in an off-ball capacity. And a lot of this is what everybody kind of raved about. Like RJ has shown so many facets of his game as a Raptor, and not all of it has come at once. But he's shown himself to be a willing cutter. He's shown himself to be a very proficient cutter. He's shown himself to be like a great no frills option. Like I know his spot up numbers have been okay. Like he's shooting 37% on his catch and shoot threes this year. He's shooting 20% on his pull up threes. That's overextended in that way. So it looks like
Yeah.
his 3-point shot has been terrible. It's not, maybe just a bit too big of a role as far as like creation. He's in the 94th percentile in the NBA as a pick and roll ball handler. So maybe you look at that and say, this is something we need to pay more attention to. But the no frills stuff, the cutting, the ability to add a threat off ball of a guy who can knife into the lane when Scottie's on ball and vice versa, I think it adds a huge element to what the Raptors want to do offensively. And it's not just being able to throw the ball to Jakob Poeltl at 12 feet and hoping he's on a heater, which he has been, which has been great to watch.
Yeah.
But your whole offense can't be like the back shoulder fade to Jakob Poeltl and a push shot, which when he caught that over two guys and immediately put the ball up, I was like, whoa, this is
Insane.
Calvin Johnson. But I just the Raptors get a lot more diverse, and also like what Darko talked about as far as what he was looking forward to is like
Mhm.
Scottie coming back on defense. Scottie adds a lot defensively. The Raptors, to their credit, have figured out how to like scratch and claw their way to okay offense quite often.
Yeah.
Part of it is the offensive rebounding. Part of it is like pushing hard. But the half court, I mean, they do their thing, and I think there's a lot of optimism on that part. But also, we got to talk about the defense. Do you think there's a possibility Scottie helps return this team to like not just a sense of normalcy, but that normalcy in Toronto could be out of the bottom 10 defensively? Do you have any hope for this? That's a
I
face.
Yeah, I don't have any hope in that. But like, if we're the 20th ranked defense, I can see that 21st ranked defense overall. I just think, like as a point at the point of attack, the Raptors have to overcompensate from like a lack of like athleticism at some of those positions. That they have to be far more aggressive than probably that they need to be. And although the like Jakob Poeltl, really good rim protector, he's playing more minutes than he usually does, and Scottie as a sweeper will help with that. But I think overall, like defenses now, you're trying to get teams to take as many contested shots as possible, and the Raptors are allowing so much penetration, it makes it hard, even if you have really good rim protectors.
Yeah. When I was poking around on the numbers, just I want to, and we'll get into kind of a deep
Yeah.
dive on what the Raptors are doing with their ball pressure. But a big thing is that the Raptors do a pretty good job of negating the pick and roll ball handler from scoring from the immediate action. They do a pretty good job of keeping the roll man from scoring on the immediate action. It's the flow of play that falls after that. It's not even necessarily the spot up attempts from like three. Of course, some teams make them, but the
Yeah.
Raptors have not been, bullied as far as like catch and shoot threes this year. They've actually been really good at suppressing those catch and shoot aspects. Like, for example, the Raptors, as far as like threes, they're fourth in the NBA in 3-point percentage allowed. That's great. They're seventh in the 3-point frequency allowed. So they're not allowing a huge amount of threes to go in. They're not allowing a huge amount of threes. What they are allowing is a whole bunch of shots at the rim. They're bottom
Mhm.
10 and they're bottom 5 in like rim defense. This is because of the closeouts basically. Is like they're a team that during the first action they don't want to respond. They want to let the two guys basically who are in the action kind of nullify it. But once they get into flow and they have to get into rotations and stuff like that, they get a little overextended. They get beat off closeouts, and guys
Yeah.
are driving those closeouts hard. The Raptors are giving up a lot of points to the drive on the closeout.
That makes a lot of sense, especially because like those guys defending the pick and roll is Davion Mitchell, really
Yes.
really good point of attack defender. Like the Raptors are the fourth highest in average pickup, and fifth in how long teams take to cross half court, and that's basically due to his intensity and ability to point of attack. And Jakob Pertl, who's also pretty good with his feet and also a really good rim protector. So that makes sense. The Pacer game is a really good example of that. You funneled Tyrese Halliburton into taking shots he doesn't want to do. They didn't have a big, but Jakob Pertl's still able to hoard off anything. But the guy who's getting the closeout is Benedict Mathurin. Very good, very talented, can get into the paint. And that's Gradey Dick also defending that closeout, which makes things
Yeah.
extremely harder. The team's scrambling, and that's how Benedict Mathurin has a really good and efficient game, particularly just getting to the rim. So that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, the big stops we have seen from even RJ have been in isolation. Gradey,
Yeah.
it's been in isolation. Ochai in isolation. The thing is, none of those guys, and it goes Ochai, probably RJ, then Gradey. It's tough ranking those.
Tough,
It's
yeah.
it's Ochai with a bullet, but none of those guys are good at closeouts. Like Ochai, that's something he has to get better with. He's much better with like keeping pressure on out on ball from the start. And like we'll talk about some of those numbers you brought up. But the Raptors have to be able to contain in coverage a little bit more often. And Gradey, like I've talked about this, that they've changed his footwork on his closeouts. This is a learning thing for him. He
Mhm.
needs to end with his foot speed and his hips. He needs to be able to cheat and cheat often. And there's the good type of cheating and there's the bad type of cheating. And the good type of cheating, I hate to be, is the kind that works. So be a cheater who gets away with it,
Mhm.
Gradey. That's what he has to be able to do on the basketball court. And they're having a lot of trouble in the back end of rotation. That's why when Jonathan Mobile comes in and they flatten everything out, they're able to keep the ball in front.
Yeah.
Things go really well. The fact that Jakob can't do that necessarily isn't an indictment of Jakob. It's just he's played a lot of years in the league and he's never been asked to be a switch big because that's not his job.
Yeah.
Mobile also can't do a million things that Jakob can do, but Mobile very specifically helps in this one thing. We'll see how this progresses as the season goes on. But you brought up the Raptors really those pressure numbers. And basically, so the big thing with the Raptors and the ball pressure that Darko talked about and that the players have talked about, the Raptors, they like to press high. They've picked it up. Their pickup point is much higher. So as you said before, they have the fourth highest average pickup point in the NBA. It's 49 feet. So top five, they're going to meet the ball extremely early. And they also really like to meet the ball in the backcourt. They will send Davion or they'll send Jamal or they'll send Ochai, even Gradey sometimes, to go pick a guy up in the backcourt. That's like there's only 94 feet. You pick up on average 49. Guess where you're picking up usually, right? And they're second in the NBA at forcing teams to slow down before crossing half court. So teams take a while to get over half court because of that
Yeah.
pressure. They're fifth in the NBA in possessions where at least one player is pressing in the backcourt. And here's the thing, their points per possession allowed is better with that press with at least one player in the backcourt guarding at 1.146 points per possession than it is without at 1.180. So basically, when the Raptors go hard press, they're defending better than when they go medium press.
Yeah.
Some of this is, I guess, some of these numbers, they're not like a home run or anything. This is influenced by the fact that Davion is going hard press all the time. I'll be very interested to see what these pressure numbers look like, how often they go to it when it's quickly more often than Davion. But your overall impression so far of the pressure defense, I'd like to know.
When Davion's doing it, I like it very very much. Like he's obviously really strong. Some of the quickest feet in the NBA is able to corral teams in general. I think overall, like I still personally want them to probably weak on most possessions and lean into like their like two of the best rim protectors that they have on the team, and that's probably the strength of like their overall defense. I just think like you see it with like Jamal Shed, for example. He when he tries to replicate a lot of those things, leads to more fouls. And some of the defense just hasn't translated from Houston
He
to
gets rescreened really easily.
yeah, which is obviously like due to some size and strength concerns overall. But I just think teams are able to like get the Raptors to scramble once they break that press fairly often. And you have one particular player that can replicate this certain style. But like an Emmanuel quickly like Gradey Dick backward, I think you're putting them in probably the aren't putting them in the greatest position to succeed. I would personally lean into the fact that like Scottie creates a lot of chaos and defensive events with his ability to roam, and Yaka being one of the better rim protectors when in drop or able to play at level, and see how it works from there. Like I think how they're currently playing makes sense based on how special Davion is as a point of attack defender. But the guys who are going to play lots of minutes, I don't think are going to be able to replicate that like for 82 games or
So
70 odd games.
yeah, I'm curious for your answer on this because Caitlin asked me this on the Pacers podcast we did. Uh, and I think your answer will be a lot closer to mine than what hers was because hers was very cutting edge. Why do you think the Raptors have upped that pressure?
I don't I think they believe that they're probably going to give up rim pressure regardless. I think you're trying to create turnovers. You're trying to create like more defensive events, like in general. I just think like with Davion playing like more conservative, you're if he's getting blown by, that creates things that makes things probably more difficult for Jakob than it already is. At least if you're slowing teams down for probably 5 to 6 more seconds, you're able to create a shell that lasts a bit better than it probably would have.
So that's close to what I said. I was saying like you slow teams down,
Yeah,
you put them into the back of the shot clock, like that's something you want to see happen. And also I was saying you mentioned really liking when Davion weaks opponents.
yeah,
Weaking for anybody who doesn't know is when you send an opponent regardless of where the screen is coming from. If it's on the right side and they're left, if it's on your right shoulder and they're a left-handed player, you would get in front of that screen and force them to their right hand, force them to their weak hand, weak them. And I said, like, I think that's part of the motivation. It's to apply, like, to put your stamp on each possession to try and move teams into the back end. And Caitlin said that, like, she had been asking around on this, that it's become a way for defenses to, and I thought it would slow teams down. And we have to see the numbers for this, but it's a way to speed teams up. The
mm,
Pacers, the Pacers were they picked up more than any team I believe in the record of like the playoffs in that having a player in the backcourt. The Pacers
yeah,
last in the Eastern Conference Finals run picked up all the time, and it led to faster possessions from the Bucks, which brought the pace of play higher. And it also, Caitlin thought, and I think I'm remembering this correctly. If not, just go watch what she said. But she thought that it leaves a player farther up court for when you start the break going the other way. And then we kind of started talking about, well, there's not an offensive side and a defensive side. It's just all one floor. and we're seeing that more and more. But I thought that was very interesting. It's something I'll watch for into the future,
Yeah.
but you and I obviously think about it similarly. But that wrinkle that Caitlin brought up, I thought was so interesting. That it
I
surprised
didn't.
me a lot.
She's the best in the business. That makes sense. I guess like as like whenever like playing basketball, like when breaking the press, the immediate thing you do think is score and like try to score as fast as possible. So that does make sense in general. And like if you are once you break like Davion's pressure, you get the appearance that the court is open. You're seeing the opposing big, so that leads to people driving in and probably speeding up possessions.
Yeah,
Makes sense. Yeah,
I just wouldn't.
I wouldn't have thought of it. Yeah.
No, I wouldn't have thought of that. And it's something I will watch for now, especially since the Raptors. You look at these numbers; they're not the number one team, but they're at the forefront of being like a hyper aggressive team, and they also want to play fast. And like the teams in the NBA are playing faster than ever this year, so it's all stuff to consider. Here's the other thing we want to talk about: RJ Barrett. Yes, we talked a little bit about like what happens when Scottie comes back, but we all know the hierarchy of the Raptors offense was Scottie, IQ, RJ. And RJ was mixed in there and has been mixed in there pretty much in the same vein, very close to Kelly and Yock. Just
Yeah.
like part of the overall offensive environment. And he killed it. He was their leading scorer as that kind of like a little bit of an afterthought.
Mm.
Since he had this start to the year, and I know his true shooting percentage isn't good. He's shooting 48% on his layups right now. He's shooting like poorly from three. And he's not been great from the line. This is tanking his efficiency. But as far as like being a hub to create for others, have you reconsidered any hierarchy for the offense?
I think in terms of hierarchy, he has to be second. I One of the things that the Raptors like really struggle with is like flipping the floor a lot when they play, and I think
Yeah.
like what RJ brought as a pick and roll ball handler like needs to be emphasized. A lot of the times, like especially like when Scottie gets ball middle of the floor, typically there usually isn't. Gradey Dick could do this now also, but like someone that creates a scramble from weak side. And now that RJ, you can get the ball and throw him a weak side pick and roll with Jakob. Similar in the vein that Fred Van Vliet could run off the ball and create havoc in that way, but also when you throw it from the other side from Pascal Siakam, a pick you can initiate a pick and roll from there. So I think like second side creation outside of like he's a really good cutter, really good at spotting up and relocate as well. But like some pick and roll possessions from that spot, involving Scottie also, involving Jakob, will open up like one is efficiency and like two create easier lanes where teams aren't loading up because right now everyone knows that whatever they're going to do, Jakob is going to set a screen and they're going to run a pick and roll. If he gets those opportunities inside creation, that makes it a lot easier. We know he can make the reads now, and also teams can't load up on his left hand. So like I'm excited to see that work out because that's like the like antithesis, not the antithesis, but like the upbringing of creating your second star to some degree. Shea Gilgeous-Alexander can flip the floor to Jalen Williams and create some of those actions that put the defense in scramble. So if RJ can do some of those things, it bodes well for like the Raptors offense upticking to from an average offense to potentially hovering near top 10 if some of those things translate.
When IQ is at his best, like his nice run that he had against the Clippers is like had a nice little run of play, and a lot of it was off ball. And so much of IQ's like the catch and hold stuff, like so much of what has happened in his game, I think it lends itself to putting him in movement and asking him to like, hey, make quick decisions because you
Yeah,
have the advantage. Keep that advantage. But when the Raptors kind of like elevated him to being the guy who the ball reverses back to, and then like he would catch and hold, everything settles back down again.
yeah,
Now it's IQ's turn to run a play with the ball in hand. It didn't go super well. And I
yeah.
know he had big assist games last year, but like again, I've said this Jamal Shed came in and had like an 8 assist game immediately. Davion Mitchell has big assist games all the time. Like
The Ponzi scheme.
The Raptors create assists no matter who's running it. The difference is that the Raptors created those assists last year. Emmanuel Quickly was not a highly regarded by points per possession pick and roll ball handler. Neither was RJ Barrett. This year, neither is Davion Mitchell, neither is Jamal Shed, but RJ Barrett is this year. He's been one of the best, and we don't have a huge mountain of data yet, but he's been so good in a lot of possessions to this point for the amount of games he's played. Same as you, I'd like to see them look at it, and not just as second side stuff, but as the primary action. I really like if let's say there's a game where Scottie is being guarded by a big.
Yeah.
Scottie is running a pick and roll with a bit like being guarded by a big, they're going to switch that. Maybe that's a nullified action for a lot of the game. And you can make the case that, like, oh, well, we want to see Scottie work through that anyway. That's fine too. But if you want to maximize that play, why not have Scottie in the weak side corner, right? If the big is going to play off of him, fine. Scottie can crash the drive when RJ gets to that left hand, and it's simply a dump off, and
Yeah.
Scottie can be running baseline at the rim with two guys under it. But those two guys can't stop him from getting to the cup. Like, that's like free throws, that's dunks, that's
Hmm.
like a lot of teams try and, occupy like defense this way. That's a great way to do it. If Scottie is in a really like, I don't think you should be mismatch hunting with RJ, but if Scottie is in a position where RJ's check is a guy that Scottie can seal and get downhill, like so much of how Jakob is scoring, if Scottie plants screens, there's a lot of easy baskets for him there too. So I'm not advocating that RJ is the number one, but
Yeah.
I, similar to you, think that as far as like initiating primary big actions, I would like the order to be Scottie, RJ, and only slightly less IQ. But keep
Yeah.
in mind, we were watching a team last year where it was IQ, Scottie at the same tier, way below its RJ. I
Yeah.
want it to be Scottie on his own tier, RJ and IQ similar. I think that could create a really healthy environment for the Raptors.
Agreed. And I think like for like quickly in general, it plays to like his strengths. A lot of like the reason like they wanted him is that how like orbs and flows around like Scotty as he grows like within a hub. If you have two guys that can do a lot of those things, it allows to one like take some of the burden off of the pick and roll possessions that he was getting last year. And two, like some of the onus of one of his most like dangerous play types is him getting downhill once already given an advantage. Like he's famous for his floater. We don't get to see that as much because the defense is already set when he's in a pick and roll action. But one like improving as a movement shooter obviously helped this, but his movement shooting, getting downhill, things like that, he would reap some of the rewards of what RJ was doing last year as like that guy that was running within the flow of the offense. So I think that plays to his strengths, and you can see a scenario how all three of them get to maximize what they do really well.
Yeah. It's, and even like Scottie, a classic, like the Scottie ball handler possessions where IQ was shallowing the double drag. Like, that's great. That puts IQ into movement. IQ like rolls out to the left. Scottie can make a pass for a three, or IQ gets to pump and go downhill. Like,
Yeah,
you can emulate more of those actions where IQ is getting into motion, where so much of it isn't him waiting for screens to appear before him, and then, maybe getting a little bit too wide, not being so direct, getting downhill. And also, like, if in a smaller amount of possessions, those start to look really good and IQ takes steps, then you recalibrate. But I think RJ, and it was what I talked to him, after the game about, like, hey, you've been one of the best pick and roll creators in the NBA. Like, how does that feel being like a really prominent part of your game now? And he was like, it always was, because that's what he's been saying to me forever. And then I asked,
I
well,
like that.
yeah, it's he's always been very like that, very confident. And then I asked, like, well, if these things have always been part of your game, like, how frustrating is it that you had to wait so long for this? And he was like, you see me? Very happy man over here. I really wanted the Tom Thibodeau to entrust it. That guy's a schmuck. Like, that was the quote I wanted. But I do think it's cool that RJ's gotten this opportunity and done so well with it. Whereas IQ, I think immediately after the trade, the expectation was IQ will have all of the opportunity and we're all going to be very thrilled with it.
Yeah.
And IQ was pretty middling. Like,
Yeah.
and that doesn't mean IQ can't like pop off and be incredible, but to this point, and not this isn't just colored by him having a tough last game. It's during last season, I was like, yeah, this is going okay, just okay. The assist numbers, assist percentage is big, but it's all just okay. RJ was the one who like leapt off the page. It looked really great in what he was asked to do. So having them in more of like a co role and being like best beats best is a
Yeah.
way better position than I think just handing it all to IQ and being like, well, RJ ranks third here. I like the mix.
I do too. Like, especially like you with IQ. Ideally, you want that him to be able to handle the ball as much as possible and hopefully become like a hub.
Especially since he projects as probably a better defender, like into the future too.
Yeah, and the pull up three, like the threat of his pull up three, just makes if he's able to operate pick and rolls, it changes the course of his career.
He scores
Realistic.
easy points too.
Yeah,
Like when IQ goes on, like IQ can score 14 points and you hardly feel it. And I don't
yeah.
mean that in a bad way. I just mean like it comes so easy in the flow. Whereas if RJ scores 14, every single point you
The
felt.
battering ram, yeah.
Yeah.
It makes sense. I think like with IQ, you need to stack on still positive events happening to him, like him scoring in the flow, him using his floater, him working off movement stuff, because those are things that are going to come along of as if Scottie becomes like the offensive player that we think that he can be. Him being able to operate off the ball is going to be like one of the biggest keys in order to open up things for Scottie and everyone else on the team. So I don't necessarily view it as like a failure or a negative thing. It's more like RJ's done really well and deserves like these extra possessions.
Yeah. Agreed. We can check back in on Grady Dick. He went 4 for 24 over 2 games, and it tanked a lot of the unique efficiency things that were happening for him. And I watched him at practice today, looked good. When it got out of whack a little bit, Evo started being like, hey, think about the dip, use your legs, started working the legs in more. There's a lot of moving parts in his jumper. I think he's going to be like, that was when we talked about it and people were like, why are you saying like Gradey isn't like a total sharpshooter from three? Because he had one good game, and I was like, well, I don't think he is. I think he's more of an overall, like
Yeah, score.
offensive weapon. That has really been the case so far. You want to talk about teams who have abused the Raptors defensively by attacking closeouts? Well, that's what Gradey has done to other teams. It's not necessarily just been as a shooter. How do we think he fits into all of this? And what have you thought of like this little, not so much run of play from him?
It hasn't really deterred me, to be honest. Like,
Yeah,
did I expect him to hit mid range shots as well as Kevin Durant the entire season? No. Uh, I think teams have given him the correct respect that he's earned over the last like few games. They're
they care
playing,
about him.
yeah, they're playing much higher. Before, when he was running off of a closeout, he wouldn't see anyone else. You're worried about Jakob with a dump. You're worried about the other side for a 3-pointer. Now teams don't care. They're not going to let him get to a spot and score because he's been one of the best mid range shooters in the NBA. Some of it I think is can be like considered some over aggressiveness. Like he throws his body and literally everything, whether that's getting to the rim, getting to mid range, trying to create space. And now that teams are playing a bit higher, it sometimes bodes like to turnovers and contested shots. I know he's a really good playmaker and processor. I think Scottie coming back also, who's also like a fantastic cutter and understands space, especially when he needs to dive to the rim, is going to help this factor. And I think a lot of his actions like stay the same. They're all within the flow of the offense. So I don't necessarily see like some of his shot attempts will obviously dip, but that's a given once all three of them are back. But the type of shots that you get, I think, will remain the same and only get easier just because you cannot have your weak side big leave Scottie Barnes alone. He's going to score. He's going to dunk. You're going to have to live with him hitting those mid range shots, and I think he's going to be able to do that. It's still a really good clip. So I think him and RJ, it's just a matter of the circumstances that they're in. The Raptors are one of the most injured teams in the league,
Yeah.
and the things that they're doing still have positive indicators overall to me.
Yeah. Gradey, I just checked quick. 48% on his pull up twos, 29 or 28% on his pull up threes. Obviously, 48% is very palatable, but the elite shooters are going to be more so in the 54 to like 60% range.
Yeah,
That sounds crazy, but the guys who are talented mid range shot makers are very talented mid range shot makers, and I think Gradey can get there. To be quite honest with you, the dribble pull up from three, I think that it is going to settle at better than 30% as well. But how high it goes, I mean, some guys have years where they shoot 34, some guys have years where they shoot 40. That one swings pretty wildly. Yeah, Gradey, he fits in so easily. I think it's just up to his teammates to like respect the steps he's taken and to
yeah,
not forget about that. In the same like with RJ's possessions, there can kind of be like these are the calls that are being made. We're running more RJ pick and roll.
yeah.
With Gradey, if guys don't look for him and if guys are a little bit too focused on getting their own, he can, because he's definitely not going to like command on ball reps, he can fall away from the game pretty quick. And also, as you mentioned, like being top blocked all the time, teams are dedicating a lot of their defensive attention to him. The Raptors have to figure out how to take advantage of that. He should be at this point like a quality decoy, and we should
100%. Yeah.
see the Raptors score more possessions where they're able to utilize the commitment that defenses have towards them a little bit more often than what they did in the very short amount of games where he was bumped down the, I guess, importancy chart of getting shots on offense.
I also liked like a lot of the inverted stuff that Scottie and Gradey were running until Scottie got hurt. Like it's
Yep.
a really good way to find him within a pocket and spot up and shoot. And also like he's proven like if he wants to slip and roll to the rim, I trust him to make the right decision. And also like he's not going to be scared to go against the other big. So like there's actions that you can find ways to get him touches still and operate like within the flow of the offense. So I'm like not really too concerned. And the fact that he's still like drawing free throws shows like how much teams respect him and are nervous about what he can do off the ball. So with less attention, I think he's gonna be able to score in bunches.
Yeah, agreed. And it might like there might be a 12-point game, there might be a 26-point game,
Yeah,
and both of those games can look good for the Raptors.
I
That's
agree.
the type of guy. He should be able to do that in the background really well and keep working hard at getting better defensively. This brings me to the other thing I want to talk about. Davion, has he shown you something? Because he was not necessarily like on his way out of the league, but
Had to show something.
he completely fell out of Sacramento. Like there's a reason he got salary dumped. Uh he fell out of Sacramento, he got salary dumped. Jamal looked better than him for a little bit of preseason. Of course, Davion has looked way, way better than Jamal to
Yeah.
start this season, but we I watched a lot of Davion before he came over to the Raptors. So did you. Has he shown you something more? Like, do you think a step has been taken by Davion at all?
I don't think so personally, but like he hasn't showed me anything that I didn't know he already can do. Like I think with the Raptors, like some of the playmaking stats, you have to take as a bit of a grain of you have to take as a grain of salt because like they have so much emphasis of guys getting to the rim, and that leads to easier passes, more assists, so on and so forth. Um, what like for Davion, I think a lot of it for him to take the next step is like I like when he drives. He has a tight enough handle. He has the requisite strength and athleticism when he does drive. And on Monday he had a couple nice drives where he got in the lane and scored and actually like put onus on the defense to respect him and his athleticism. And like the shooting stuff, like I'd never expect him to get to a point where like teams are guarding his 3-point shot. But there's inactivity when he has the ball sometimes where it doesn't lead to the offense getting into flow. It doesn't lead to the defense scrambling in any other way. So I think he has to get to a point where there's more added aggression and he can be a battering ram at his size because he's that type of athlete. So I don't think he'll ever really run out of like the league per se, just because of how special of a defender he is. But I do think that there's still positive indicators to show like there's a step where he is a guy that you absolutely have in your like playoff lineup.
I'm very interested. Like I've been very happy with Davion to this point.
Yeah,
But we were very happy when they traded for Davion because
agreed.
we felt pretty optimistic about him relative to the league, right?
Yeah,
Uh he begs the question, like there's some guards, Kyle Lowry was one of them. Whatever big you have on your roster, that big will give you like good impact because Kyle and a few other guards like Chris Paul is another one of those. That guy knows how to guide the big around the court, put them in positions to dunk, put them in winning positions as the low man. Like it just happens. There's guards who make use of any big man on the court.
Bismack Biyombo. Yeah,
Exactly. Lucas Negero, right?
yeah,
That kind of stuff is prevalent. I wonder if Jakob is the inverse. Like he is a big who makes use of any guard that comes near him because he'll just like carve out these giant gobs of space for you as a screener. He has the widest catch radius for a pocket pass ever because he gets sideways. He has great footwork afterwards. Like he's just a hack for finding and allowing guards to thrive. I wonder if that's a little bit of it. But I think most of the value of Davion, who has shown exactly what he's supposed to this point, is like
mm-hmm.
quick decision making. He keeps the offense in a flow. He's making pocket passes. He drives like he's shooting 52% on his drives. He's taking drives a decent amount of time. His assist percentage out of drives is higher than RJ's right now, and in twice as high as Gradey's, for example. Like all that stuff is happening, and it's like good. That's what it's supposed to be. The real value comes in seeing how he, if Gradey's having a particular tough night, like let's say it's Ben Mathurin again, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you want to put Davion on Ben Mathurin, and there's no explosion in the fourth quarter because Davion is there, and Davion is surviving and moving the ball on offense, taking drives that are available to him, hitting an okay amount of catch and shoot threes,
Yeah.
moving the ball, looking like part of it all. That is the stuff that will really prove it. But um, I think relative to expectations around the league, I think he's doing extremely well. I think like a
Yeah.
nice old pat on the back for making good on it so far.
It's a train die, but like I I think like from the day he got traded, there's a pathway to like he's our backup point guard for the next five years, just simply
Yep.
because like the level of defense he has and how he can change the lineups just by his force like defensively. So like that makes sense overall. I really am interested to see like how him and Quickly play together because he'll be able to take off some of the onus of Emmanuel guarding some of the primary ball handlers, and also like we now know that he can run the Raptors offense to some degree. Can Quickly work off of him also within those lineups because then it makes a Quickly plus bench lineup more viable, easier to play with, and overall like Davion is in a position now where he's able to not necessarily like have the need to run any pick and rolls. He can play off the ball at times, work off Quickly's gravity also, and use the driving lanes that are available to him and extend those advantages.
Yep. He had great big positive numbers when he played with Sabonis and Fox. The hope is that he's able to do it playing off of like Quickly, RJ, and Scottie. Cross your fingers because that means that the Raptors are more adaptable at end of games when they decide they actually want to be winning those games. Which brings me to this question: is a vibes team a good thing? Do you enjoy it? Because I asked Garrett about that today. I was like, how has Darko been able to impart like this joy on the team? Because he credited Darko with it. How do you guys do it? Because Garrett was like, nope, this is new. Like I almost cursed the awards, the awards during like the crown, the chain, like all that celebratory stuff, and also Garrett being like, "Ooh, this is different." When the team is like, good emotions, like positivity, and they're one of the like they have one of the worst records in the league. What do you make of it from the outside perspective?
Like I think for a team that is rebuilding, I think it makes a lot of sense. Like it you want a team that like has joy and you want the fans to enjoy like what's happening because there's going to be a lot of tough nights. Like if the team 2 years ago started the season like this, we would be having a much different podcast overall just because like where those players are at. And I think when you're like, there's this joy and fun in what's happening and what's going on, it allows like people to play harder and people to respect like the Raptors. Like they lose a 5 point game, and you come out of it saying they tried really hard. They they played to their best. They really pushed whatever opposing team they're really playing, and you're getting a lot of those outcomes. If you had some of those older Oklahoma City seasons where you're getting the snot kicked out of you every single week, those become tougher to watch. It probably is tougher for the players to buy in also. And when the Raptors do win, it feels like they won the championship. I was on the game on Monday. It felt like we're world beaters just beating like the Indiana Pacers. So,
The locker room right next to the media room.
yeah,
Every win, I've been at all three of them this year. Every win they've had is like an explosion of cheering from the locker room when they celebrate, like the chain when they all. And you wouldn't think this team only won 3 games. You might think they won the chip. And you know what's interesting about it is like I think it's only tenable right now. It only works right now because it is like Jonathan Mobo, Jamal Shed,
yeah,
Jamison Battle, Grady Dick. Like, yes, Jakob is there, but Jakob, I think, had the right mindset coming into the season. He got
yeah,
clowned on a little bit, but he was honest. He was like, look around. Is this a championship team? Do you want me to lie to you? We're not winning. Like, it's real. It's
yeah.
super
It's fair.
real. Um, Being a good vet in that way. But like, there's so many guys who just hit the league who are getting big minutes, who are getting to like perform at the biggest stage. I don't think this is possible when everybody's healthy.
Yeah, there was expectations for sure. Like
And not huge expectations, but more than this.
yeah, like if you lose, you go 2-8 in your next 10 when Quickly and Scotty are back, and they both struggle. We're having a conversation like, oh, like we like the really weird thing about the Raptors in terms of a rebuild, like it's been hammered home a lot, is that they've spent the money, they've decided who the guys are and who is going to lead this front. There is no question about it. So like they have to play well, and they have to at least show positive indicators that they're going to be a playoff team, be a play-in team, or whatever.
Yeah.
So I think that makes sense. Like Jamison Battle does something great. I'm cheering. I'm cheering like this is an end of league guy. We Masai did it again in the draft. Whereas like Emmanuel Quickly has a 8 for 25 game. You're thinking about the contract. You're thinking about the investment the Raptors obviously made, and like the lack of flexibility they obviously had. So I think that some of that is true as well. But like if Scotty scores 40 points tomorrow, we're gonna say the league is his. So it works the other way as well.
Scottie Barnes is going to be face of the league. You know? Yeah, like there's just expectations when the team is healthy. That's why opening night was like, yo,
Oh
what
my
the hell?
god. Oh, depressing.
Because Scotty was really bad. IQ had 14 points in like 14 points and 4 assists in hardly any time, but then he got injured and then he missed weeks, you know?
Yeah.
And then it only like felt like okay once RJ came back, but then Scotty got injured again. It's just like there's an opportunity for joy for guys who have not seen this much playing time. And also like a really great Ryan Wolstad asked this, but was like, how do you communicate to guys who have spent like their whole lives winning? But are losing now. That's like I thought that was
Yeah.
such an interesting thing because yeah, like Jamal Shed wins all the time until now. So does
Yeah.
Jonathan Mobo. So does all those guys. Like you're not playing on bad college teams. You're playing on good college
Yeah.
teams.
Yeah.
You're playing on great high school teams, and you're a huge part of it. Then you come to the NBA and you're like, damn, we lose every game. You know, like
Yeah,
that's tough.
I think it's an easier sell because like Jamal Shed,
You're getting
Jonathan
paid a lot
Mobo.
of money.
I
You're like,
mean,
I'm rich.
I
I'm
would trade,
rich.
but you don't come into the season expecting to play a lot, and now they've been thrust in a situation where two of the three highest paid guys on the team aren't in the lineup now. So I think it's easier to like stomach losing when Jamal Shed is getting to play through mistakes. Jonathan Mobo is able to draw to foul DeMar DeRozan 5 times, and it's okay. He's gonna play the next game, you know. So
You know what's crazy?
yeah,
Scotty is not one of the highest paid players on the team. Not yet.
not yet. Yeah, it kicks in next year. You're right.
Bruce Brown. Bruce Brown is it's what is it? IQ, RJ, Bruce
Bruce
Brown.
Brown. Wow.
Yeah. crazy. And then Jakob.
Yeah, 20. Yeah.
Wow, interesting. That's I because like Scottie, we talk about him as like he's on the max, but he's still making a lot like 12 million this year.
Well,
He's
only
on the Chris Boucher contract. He's on the Austin Matthews contract.
that's crazy.
um, last thing I want to talk about: Anthony Edwards is in town. I'm not going to the game tomorrow. Lewis is. I've taken many games in a row, but this is like a unique Wolves team and one that I thought pivoted like they pivoted when they shouldn't have. That was
Agreed.
my read of it. And I also thought like the Knicks, like I liked both teams better before the trade.
Yeah, I was pro trade for the Knicks, but like I'm still under the assumption that like Mitch
Big
and
Purr.
Rudy, yeah, Mitch and Cat are still gonna play together, and that they're simulating what they did in Minnesota. If it's not like that, and I'm hoping the center minutes show Tibbs that, like that is probably like a kibosh. Like they're probably more concerned about Mikhail than Cat right now.
Man, Michaela's had a couple like it's been crazy a little bit.
Yeah,
And same with Cat, like that stat about 93% at the rim. Like
insane.
I thought this has to be something is going wrong, I think. Like this is a tracking data. Like I'm sure it's not good. I'm sure it's
Mm.
maybe close to historically bad. But I was like, surely it's not that bad. Like something is getting lost in the shuffle here. I never interrogated these thoughts, just wondered about them. But yeah, this Wolves team, we've seen them already. How do you feel about seeing them again? What do you think happens in this upcoming game?
Please, God, Scotty, play. We're like, like from the games I've seen from them, like Julius Randle has taken a lot of like the secondary action stuff, and it's actually worked really well with Ant. I think one of the big reasons like why his 3-point shooting clip has skyrocketed over the last year, just because like Julius can take the ball and take some of those possessions from like a creation standpoint. Like for like the Raptors, like playing them, like the only person that you really want guarding Julius, like RJ's probably a little too small. I think Mobile could probably handle some possessions, but like ideally, it's probably Scotty. That's not the player you probably want to face, like with an orbital bone injury, like post get your elbow.
True.
But like physically, like he's one of the only people that can really match him. I think like you throw as much pressure as possible with Davion, and I would probably sometimes send someone else at Ant and force him to make decisions and make really quick decisions to hopefully lead to like actual turnovers. But I think like with the other game, like they jump to a quick lead just because like when he's throwing it to Julius, he's able to flip the court easily and score at the rim. So I think the Raptors are better than when they played them last, also, just like from an execution standpoint and what they do offensively. But like without Scotty like there for his physicality, I think Julius is gonna have a big night.
I do also wonder how much because Randall does help out on the defensive glass, not nearly as much as Cat did, but like it's still a tough team to enact a huge offensive rebounding scheme against,
Yeah,
which is what the Raptors like to do. I wonder what that looks like. And yeah, like who guards Randall if Scotty's not there? Geez, that gets gnarly so fast.
yeah,
That because Randall, people have underrated him for a long time, I think. And that's not me saying he's not the almost MVP that like Knicks fans thought when he was on his hottest like heat waves, but I think he's like so thoroughly an all NBA level wing and just sits around there. Maybe not first team, but he's around there.
yeah.
And God, he brings the ruckus. Like he will bring it every game. It's very tough to look at how the Raptors will match up with him if Scotty isn't there. And also if Scotty is there, like do not guard with your face. Keep it
Please.
clear at all times. He runs roughshod, man. Yeah, and Ant, I just fun to watch Ant. I really like watching him play, even though he's shooting a lot of threes. He still gets up for a few dunks. So like, yeah. What have you thought of that transition for Ant's game? Like, are
Like
you like hell yeah, this is efficient?
no, I just because like I think about it like long term within the playoffs, they need his rim pressure. I think like his 3 point shooting has probably jumped up just because like Conley's dwindling, and obviously Cat's not there also, who took some of those possessions from three.
Yep.
But he's letting Julius handle the ball more than I thought that he would. But I think in the playoffs, like teams are going to sag off Julius so much that it makes it harder for Ant to just sit back and be an off ball threat. He's going to have to be able to sometimes get through splits, force rim pressure, and that will make Julius probably more of a guy that dives in the playoffs and actually takes those possessions from there and score like that and makes things easier overall. I think it's really dependent on how well like Julius's like playoff numbers. Like it's still not a lot of games. So if he can replicate what he does in the regular season, then it's fine. But I think time will tell.
I always wondered about because Ant is shooting like 50% of his field goal attempts are coming from three.
Yeah, insane.
I Yeah, it's a lot. And you have like a 3 point per game drop from Gobert. Some of that is Conley not being as present in the offense. Some of that is the fact that like it's harder to play make to the rim. It's harder to create like opportunities for bigs when you take so many threes.
Yeah.
Like it's just harder to do that. That's why Boston is like when they play a big, like sure, Keita can find stuff, but it's not like his field goal attempts go high. And also they have so many guys that get downhill, and they shoot a lot of threes, but they get there for dump offs. It's like,
Mhm.
and it was Kristaps Porzingis for however long. It's like Derek White shoots threes, Jalen Brown
Yeah.
shoots threes, Jason Tatum shoots threes, Drew Holiday shoots threes, and even Drew they put in the dunker spot. Like
Yeah.
it's just it's harder to play make to your big men. And the Wolves are not that good a team. They're not the Celtics. They don't just get to be like, oh, well, we don't really, if Rudy gets involved, he gets involved. It's like, no, you have to make sure he's part of the offense. Like he has to be there. Um, there's no happy go lucky from both like the personnel standpoint and the personality standpoint, I think. It's interesting. I wonder how that manifests in the playoffs, really, and like how long continues because he's shooting 43%. So his points per shot attempt is like through
Yeah.
the roof right now. Um, but the overall playmaking stuff, I wonder about.
Yeah, cause it's tough because like he was playing in a situation where he still had a decent amount of space. Like Cat's one of the best 3 point shooting bigs ever, and you have to respect that. But even in the Mavericks series, they they left Cat open. He didn't have the greatest series where they didn't shoot
Oh,
fairly
he
well,
shot
and
terribly.
which is insane. But some of those like playmaking limitations like showed within that series, and to a point where sometimes he stopped driving. Like Derek Jones Jr. defended him fairly well, much better than anyone thought. And when there's actual like people in the paint, you need to be able to add that second step, have manipulation in order to create opportunities because like someone like Derek Lively is going to be able to shield off Rudy Gobert, and you're going to need something more advanced than a typical dump off. So like he's going to have to show that in the playoffs if they want to go far.
Do you think the Raptors win this one?
No, I want to be optimistic, but just like I don't know, like in good faith you can put Scottie on Julius Randle. I feel like you have to like throw RJ to the Wolves and just like
Oh Lord,
pray for the best. Like it's not worth him getting hurt again.
that's interesting. Yeah, if I had to guess, I don't think Scotty plays tomorrow.
It's not the greatest. It's not the greatest team to be your first game.
And if he doesn't play tomorrow, they're probably not practicing Friday. They'll probably practice Saturday, I guess. But like, you just you get the days off.
Yeah,
You know, he gets another look at it. Like, it's just more rest, I think. And it's not like the Raptors are so eager to get guys back. You know.
yeah.
So if I had to guess, probably not playing. But I'd really like if he did because he's a really fun player to watch. It's like
Yeah.
Garrett Temple said today. He was like, "Well, in a lot of instances, you really have to be considerate about a guy with high usage coming back. But with Scotty, he's like a pass first player, and he's perfectly willing to like meld into the game. So those are like huge positives. I hope he plays.
Oh, can we talk about the Garrett Temple minutes? Like
Yeah,
some of the best minutes I've seen all season. Like it was fantastic just to see him go out there and play. Like I'm an old man. You're an old geezer as well. So you remember Garrett Temple, the player?
I thought we were trying to brand ourselves as the young boys, like the hot and happening
Yeah,
podcast.
yesterday I fell asleep by 8:30.
Wow,
I was knocked out.
nuts.
So
All right.
I don't think I can. But like, just like having someone that like understands like off ball rotations like makes defensive structure just so much easier. I like he's not moving the fastest, but he's able to create a turnover just because he knows where to actually go. And I think it's really good to see someone apply that on tape so that someone like a Grady Dick can actually like execute that in the future.
Yeah, I like the idea that like it's just Grady hasn't been shown yet. He's like, oh, that's what you do. Yeah, Garrett was tremendous. Like that fast break assist was awesome. The three he hit from the corner when everyone was like, yeah, and he was like, they didn't care that much. It was just a timeout. Like he was like, it was just lucky that there was a timeout called. But he got everybody excited, and it's nice to see him get back into it.
Yeah.
He's awesome.
I was cheering it like it was Fred VanVleet hitting that three in the finals. I lost my mind. So I play him some more, man. I like the vibes of this team.
You're a good cheerer at events. Some people are scared of it, but you'll what is it? Hoop and holler? Is that what people say?
I scream like I'm at home. Like it's things have like shifted. Like Raptors like a really popular like team now, like in the city. So like people expect them to be good, or want them to be good. So like they're not necessarily cheering like how they did like in 2008 when you're just like praying that they could win 40 games, win 38 games. It's like the environment's a lot different. But like I cheer for any positive event that happens with this team. Like it's gonna be a long season. You want to see cool things like that. And Garrett Temple like providing positive minutes is something that like I didn't see happening this season, but like it was really fun.
MLSC, if you're listening, these are the type of kids that the Sprite Zone raised.
Oh
Bring
man,
it back.
when the one of the first Raptors game I went probably like without my parents, Sprite Zone. I want to say 2009 or 10 against the Boston Celtics. Best $10 ever spent.
Hell yeah. A little high school Trevon. Were you
Yeah.
like, what'd you wear? What was sick at that? What like you thought like I'm going to a Raptors game without my parents? What did you wear? Do you remember?
Hmm. Where? I used to wear a lot, like the little obey stuff, the
Oh yeah.
little swag boy stuff. I don't know what I wore that particular day, but like something along those lines. And like I was a big fitted guy, big Blue Jay hat in every single color, every single variation.
Jeez.
And what were like
Uh
those? What was those wooden things that people wore? Those wooden necklaces. I can't remember.
oh, like a wait, you wore like a surfer boy necklace?
One of those things. I can't remember the actual name of it, but
Oh.
I wore
Wow.
those things a lot too.
Yeah, the first Raptors game I ever went to, I never got to go to a Raptors game as a kid. I grew up in Saskatchewan and like no way. uh the first Raptors game I ever went to was in 2008, 2017, and I think I just wore like I still have the jacket. It's like a black denim jacket with the Sherpa inside or shearling inside,
Ooh.
whatever the hell it's called. Um yeah, it's fun. DeMar had like 36 against the Wizards, I think. Good game. And I was also like, it was before I started working and covering the Raptors and doing all that kind of stuff. So I was just,
Now, now
whoa.
it's just an everyday to you. You just walk in, you tip your cap a little bit, and they say, "Hey, what's up, big ticket?" You
It
just dap up Drake.
if you had I didn't dap up Drake. But I did dap up Pascal. Like I saw him when he returned, so that was nice to see him. And like, um, if you had told me like in 2018 or whatever, it's like, yeah, you'll be like covering the game, you'll see Pascal, you like dap up and like do the whole thing, and I was like, I would be like, what? But then I was just like, oh, it's just before the game, doing the thing.
It's big business. I've seen you at Summer League. You're kissing hands, shaking
Oh
babies.
Jesus, no, that's S. S is the little baby kisser, the handshaker. I don't have the stamina for all that. But yeah, I tell you this much: it's a very cool job. I'm lucky to do it. Anything you want to say before we get out of here?
We didn't touch on it a lot. Jameson battle. I'm buying some stock. I'm a believer.
Wow. Okay. Okay. Yeah. I'm not buying with you, but okay. I think I'm comfortable with where it's at. I don't see it going like higher.
I
Like the time to
I'm
buy
willing to
was
see.
earlier.
I'm willing
I
to see
already took the L.
Ginger Hauser. I'm ready. I'm ready to go there.
Okay, Ginger Hauser. All right. Wait, isn't Hauser like ginger already? Isn't he kind of?
I don't think he's ginger. I
No,
swear
he's
he's
blonde.
blonde.
He's
Yeah.
blonde. I get sure Ginger Hauser
Quick. We need a quicker shot, but that's what the Nora board does, bro.
makes quicker shots. Okay, all right, yeah, we'll see. Yeah, I just I don't think now is the right time to buy. I think the time to buy was earlier, and maybe you did then, but
Yeah.
and maybe you're re-upping, but I didn't buy then, and I'm still like, okay, I won't buy now. If I could go back then and buy, then sure, but now is the wrong time for me. I will not be, but only one of us own. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in. Oh, I forgot. I forgot.
Oh, S is gonna kill
Oh,
you. S
I
is gonna
forgot.
kill you.
I forgot to do the thing. I forgot to say like, subscribe, comment,
Oh,
but also we're doing a thing. We're at Raptors Republic. We want to know what you like and don't like. We want, like, you have an opportunity to win some money, listener. There's a survey. It's in the bio or in the description that you can fill out. You let us know what you've liked about Raptors Republic so far, what you'd like to see change, like suggestions about how we can tailor some more of the work towards you so that we can be the best we can be for the people who read and listen, all that good stuff. You fill out the survey, you do that, you get entered for an opportunity to win a $250 Fanatics gift card. That's like a fire new Raptors jersey, like high quality. You can give it to your kids. Like it passes down the same way that like the Vince Carter purple jersey did forever. Maybe the RJ Barrett purple jersey passes down from you. I don't know, but it's an opportunity. You just have to answer a couple questions. Let us know what you like and don't like, and then you can maybe win some money. That's what it is. Go to the description. Okay. And like and comment and all that good stuff. Share. You like us. We're cool guys. You want us to be cooler and more likable and more popular. Thank you for tuning in. From myself and Trevon. Have a blessed day and goodbye.